this was a question brought up recently with our upcoming batch of dogs coming in because we have a couple of new staff. And they were asking me if the dogs were available for adoption. And we have a rule out here that new staff have to be here at least 90 days before they can adopt. And the dog that they want to adopt also has to be here at least 90 days. And I got to thinking about, after our last conversation, about all of the dogs that have touched us. And there was, Chelsey, you mentioned in a recent conversation there was one that got away.
Mm-hmm.
You want to tell us about that?
I mean, there's one that gets away every time I go out there, I'll tell you that. But my one that got away, her name was Cranberry. I think I met her the second time I came out to Kindness Ranch. She stole my little heart. I still talk to her, adopt her all the time. She always sends me on Instagram. She'll send me Cranberry updates, she calls them. She calls her Berry now. And it's just, Cranberry's just got one of those grumpy, sleepy faces. And every picture is just her just asleep on the bed. And she just knows I am just obsessed with her. I love her so much. I'm getting emotional thinking about her. But she was my one that got away. I just love her so much.
What about you, Lori?
Well, we did at an earlier date talk about, I don't really want to call him the one who got away because thankfully he was adopted by my board member who lives in Manitoba as well. So every time we meet, I just happen to have to set that meeting place at her place. And he, Atlee, comes running up to the door and I can hear her in the background going, "It's your girlfriend, it's your girlfriend." And so he didn't really get away. I get to see him anytime I want. And so it's very, I'm very lucky on that part, in that respect. Are you John, I've got to ask you right now, are you like having this momentary, are you having this moment because our guest has the dog that got away from you? Is she the one who got away?
I wasn't going to say that, but since you are so skilled with your segues, if you would like to introduce today's guest, by all means. I'm just going to sit here and look at the video feed and reminisce.
Right. The one that got away. Maybe that's the name of this episode. But okay, well, we are going to chat with Christy. So welcome, Christy and Casey, hello. Thank you for being here. Christy is one of those somewhat surprised, what we call foster fails, because Christy, and in a fabulous way, of course, but Christy and Casey, who is sitting with her now, who at the time we knew as Fiat. So we want to make that note because we change the names and we choose fun names when we come into Canada and kind of use that as a new start sort of thing. But welcome, Christy and Casey, who really were not expecting, came into my yard that day not expecting to adopt. It was their second time fostering what was the plan. And so now here we are, and I'm excited to sort of chat and talk about that journey, Christy. Welcome.
Yeah.
Hello, Christy and Casey.
Hi, Christy.
Hello. Well,
So,
Casey
Christy, I have to ask. I don't mean to cut you off, but this is your second time fostering for the Beagle Alliance,
yes.
Right?
Yeah.
What was it that made you want to work or foster with former research animals? How did you get introduced to that world?
Well, first we had a beagle who had been rescued in Manitoba many years ago, and we just loved her to death. It was the first time we had a beagle, and she just melted our hearts. And we had her for probably 10 years. And then, so I always had in the back of my mind, I really like beagles. And I was just scrolling and good old Instagram brought up Lori's Beagle Alliance. And I started watching videos and I was like, oh my goodness, what is happening? What is going on in this world? And then we're like, well, look, we already have a dog. We can foster. We can do this. We can help out. So just contacted Lori and ta-da.
Ta-da.
Here we are 2 years later. Christy, when you walked into, when we come into Manitoba, we have what's called a little release event at my yard usually. And of course, everyone's prepared and nobody knows what dog they're going to be matched up with. That's kind of the special moment, and also what makes you fosters and adopters so special, because you sort of lay your trust on us to choose that dog, and hopefully everything works out. But either way, of course, you had no plans to adopt. Your family had no plans to adopt. When was the moment that, did you walk in, look at that little cutie face and go, okay, it's over? Or was it a week later? What was that moment like when you went, okay, this is not a foster?
Well, when we pulled into your yard and my daughter was just vibrating in the back seat, I can't wait to see the dog. Mom, do you think it's going to be a girl? Do you think it's going to be a boy? Mom, this. And I was like, just settle down. We're not taking this dog. We're there to foster, to help this dog grow. And then she came out of that kennel and she came right into our arms. And I was like, nope, this is it.
It was that quick. Love at first sight.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And Zoe was all over it, wasn't she? She had already.
Oh, yeah.
I love Christy. Do you know, Christy and I have cried a lot together.
Yes.
Because it was such a special day and a special moment. And it really spoke to you, Christy, too. And we've chatted about this. So I'd love for you to share just a little bit about really when you really start thinking about former research dogs and them coming into your family and what that's meant to you, to think about that, if you wouldn't mind sharing some of that.
Oh, absolutely. This little girl charms everybody. Everybody who meets her, we explain her story, and she's curled up in their lap, snuggled up against them.
I fell victim to those charms.
I was thinking that, John, exactly.
Yeah. But she melts everybody's heart. She's so trusting. She's so sweet that absolutely no one can believe that somebody could look into these. She is giving you the side eye, but she has very deep brown eyes that just say, love me. And
I thought it was because she missed Wyoming.
You missed Wyoming, Casey.
Maybe just in the winter, John. No offense.
So, Christy, if you don't mind, Chelsey said something before you logged in that I thought was really interesting, because one of my questions that we have written down is to ask you what surprised you most about a former research animal's most normal thing that they do. And Chelsey mentioned before you logged on that Fiat, or Casey, is one of the most normal dogs that she's seen come out of research. What's been your experience on that?
Yeah, she is really normal and so incredibly trusting of people. It floors me. Even last night we were walking and she was, she's still a little skittish when she walks, but there was a person walking towards us and she instinctively, and I don't know if this person likes or feels comfortable with dogs. And as we walked by, Casey veered towards her as if to say, hello, do you want to pet me? Do you want to be my friend? And I'm like, how does this dog who has suffered at the hands of people, how does she just trust everybody and has zero apprehension with people when she's meeting them, which is really fantastic, but a little scary sometimes.
Yeah, it is. I like to say it's beautiful and heartbreaking when you find the dogs who are so trusting to people. It's almost like you shouldn't be, you know? So
Yeah.
I can empathize with that feeling. And I guess, do you feel like she just, how do I phrase this? Let me think. Do you feel that she just let some things go immediately when she got into the home, right? Because there is some hesitation. And I know we talked early on of her, she has a little bit of a startle reflex and noises and stuff like that. But with people, do you feel like that's something that she never had an issue with, or it got better? I guess let me ask it that way. Do you feel her fear? Sorry, let me think about this. Do you feel that her relationship with strangers was always a-okay, or is that something that has evolved the longer that she's been with you?
I think she's really always been like, people come into our home and she's like, hi, welcome. Like, let me sit on your lap. Would you like to pet me? And the head's down and she'll lean in for love. And I'm like, okay. Cause our other dog will take a minute to warm up to people and he'll be like, I'm going to check you out first. And she doesn't have any of that. She just goes with it and she's like, hello. She expects love.
Well, speaking of Finnegan, speaking of your other dog, what was his role with her as big brother? What did he do that helped her or maybe didn't help her so much?
Well, he's really she finds comfort in him. So if things get scary, if she's on a walk, and like she's still tentative about walks, but she'll walk and she'll press her shoulder up against him. And he's like, okay, that's fine. He's her comfort in that sense. When things do get rough for her, she always looks to him. And if he's fine, then she's like, okay, I can regulate this. I can be fine too. Of course, if he's crazy, she's like, I'm coming along.
Let's talk about Casey and Finnegan, because this is just a funny thing. And Chelsey didn't know what we were talking about. And I was talking naturally, and this is completely off topic a little bit. John, I can't remember if you knew this or not, but does anyone out there know Mr. Dress Up, Casey and Finnegan? Because that's the naming. And so Chelsey didn't know what I was talking about.
Didn't,
and I was like, well, no, of course they named Fiat Casey because their other dog's Finnegan.
And we right over my head.
Right over their heads. And then I was like, is this a Canadian thing? I have to ask the public. It's a Canadian. Well,
it's got to be a Canadian thing.
Okay.
Well, it was like an institution. Anyway, so of course there is Casey and Finnegan.
Yeah.
And what about Jay, Christy, your husband Jay? Because we know that there's a little bit of a soft spot there for this little girl, big time.
Oh, yes. Yes. We often
might want to cover your ears, John. Sorry, Christy. Maybe you want to cover your ears, John. I don't know.
Yeah, we always say Jay is her boyfriend, that she goes to him and just snuggles up. And our experience with other beagles too has been that they're actually more reluctant to go towards men. And so he really loves that she loves him probably just as much as she loves the rest of us, because he doesn't often get dedicated love like that from dogs.
You
better
were
clarify there.
You were mentioning how she's so outgoing and like jumped right on you and greets everybody at the house. And Lori and Chelsey, I don't know if you guys remember when she was here.
Yep.
She wasn't entirely that way. She would like stretch her back legs out and kind of lean in. And as soon as I made contact with her, then it was game on. She just jumped right into my lap, but she wasn't as outgoing.
Yeah.
And I would tend to say, Chelsey, you could definitely talk more to this than me, but that's a testimony to anybody looking to get one of these dogs on what factor environment truly plays, isn't it?
Oh, gosh, it plays a huge factor. And, I give the dogs evaluations when I'm at the ranch, just so I have a general idea of the behaviors and, these different things that I see. I pass that along to Lori for the dogs that go up to Canada. But I always have the conversation of like, this could all change, like there have been dogs who are not good with dogs when they're at the ranch, but they get into a different home and they're totally fine with dogs. And with Fiat specifically, what's interesting is one of the conversations I remember having with Lori is this dog, it seems really stable and she seems really sweet and she seems calm, but that could be a facade. We don't know. So whatever foster you put her with has to know that when she decompresses, this could all change and you could see these bad behaviors, because she could just be hiding some of these things, where some dogs, they're outright showing you, the good, the bad, the ugly right away. But Fiat wasn't. And so I was like, I don't know if this is a fluke or not. So let's just make sure they're, people who are going to be able to work with her through this and they're going to be patient with her. And it seems like it was not a facade. It seems like that's just who she is.
It's true. It's true though too. And you know what? That's exactly, honestly, that was part of the reason why we matched her and really thought that Christy and Jay and Zoe would be perfect, and Finnegan, because they had already fostered before. We'd had so many conversations about fostering. So we had worked with one dog together already, and they were the perfect family. And it's always bittersweet because I love my foster fails, but then I lose a foster. So we were so thrilled, but she really didn't, because we've seen that before, Chelsey, where then the rambunctious one that's really kind of outgoing becomes the very shut down one. Sometimes it goes the opposite way. And we've often said that we see sometimes 3 different dogs. John sees them when they're first out of the facility, and then there's a transition in a sanctuary setting, and then there's a foster, and then even if you go further, there's more. There's further transition because they're decompressing, etc. But did you see any of the? Even though she was a little bit different, Christy, and seemingly well adjusted, did you see what were some of the stages you saw? Were there some milestone moments that you went, okay, this is a movement?
I think at Christmas time, like she really, right around Christmas when all the decorations came out and everything, and she was just like, okay, what's wrong with these people? And Christmas morning, we knew it was going to be, tough for her. And when toys and treats came out for her, and she was just like, and she just really like, for me. And there were things that she didn't have to share with Finnegan. They were hers and hers first. And she just kind of like, oh, I think I'm going to like it here. Where she just really settled in and was like, I got this.
Christy, tell me what that's like for you to be there on Christmas morning, seeing your new dog light up at Christmas. How does that feel, knowing this is this dog's first Christmas and look at how happy she is?
What's
that like
so
emotionally?
Heartwarming. Oh, it was, all the feels, right? You're like, oh my goodness, we did this. She gets it. She understands. And like, she just kind of sat back on the couch and was resting after all the craziness. And you're like, yeah, sweetheart, you're home.
Aw.
So when you think about where she came from and what she may have gone through, do you think that her past at this point might affect you a little bit more than her?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I can't even think about what she's gone through. It cripples me, honestly, because I look at her and how could you hurt her? How could anybody hurt her? She's so sweet and trusting, and I can't think about buying a product that would bother her that was tested because of her. It just changes everything that you want to do with your life. Because I don't want anyone to hurt another dog like they hurt her.
Do you find yourself wanting to get more involved in the movement to raise awareness about research animals, or I know some people kind of want to grab their research dog and just hunker down and try and tune out the outside world, and some people are moved to action. Which side of that do you think you fall on?
Definitely action. I'm a teacher, so my kids have read more articles about research beagles. There is not a child who passes through my classroom that doesn't know her picture, doesn't hear, doesn't read, doesn't research about it. And the number of them that are shocked, they come up to me, who routinely are like, how's Casey doing? Do you have a new picture of Casey? Because I just keep spreading the word. Every person who stops me on the street because I'm wearing my toque that says Beagle Alliance, we explain. Every person who pets her on a walk gets the story, gets told, and my whole family, we talk about it constantly to people so that they hear, so that they know. And every one of my kids, when they heard about Ridgeland, came to me and were like, did you see the news? Did you see this? Did you see this? So I keep talking. I keep talking always.
Thank you, Christy. That's
my
amazing.
wife and I went to the Grand Canyon on a vacation. We took our two former research beagles with us, and there we were standing at the North Rim, and we had our back to the Grand Canyon the entire time because we were turned around answering everybody's questions about our research beagles. They do the best promotion of all.
Yeah, they
are.
do.
They're the best ambassadors, and they really do spark conversation and spark changes in people's minds. And now I'm thinking, Christy, I should come do a presentation at your school. We might have to discuss that.
I'm thinking we should make Casey a therapy dog. That's what I'm thinking.
There you go.
Yeah.
Would you like
she could go and she could be a professional ambassador.
Yeah.
She's been great so far. She's just looking around.
Christy, what's a story when you're talking about her, when you're talking to people about Casey, and maybe even specifically with the kids? What's a story that you like to tell them about her? Is there something that sticks in your mind of, when I talk about Casey, this is the one story that I go to?
Well, they usually ask me, what is she doing right now? And I always say, you know what? She's in bed. And she gets into bed at night with us, and she curls up, and it is the most peaceful, restful thing to just see her sleeping. But when I get up in the morning to go to work, she doesn't get up. And my husband, who has been working from home for a bit, I'll ask him every day, what time did she get up? And it's sometimes not till 3:00 in the afternoon does this little princess emerge from the covers. We make the bed, just put the covers all around her.
What a life.
And she gets, yeah. And people will be like, don't you get her up? And I said, I'm not going to begrudge her the peaceful sleep that she wants. She can stay in bed as long as she wants. Finnegan gets up and starts his day. She's earned the right to stay all day in bed if she wants. Oh. And the kids love that. They say that's their favorite thing about Casey, is that she sleeps late and has zero qualms about doing so.
Oh.
Does she play with toys, Christy?
Yes, quite a bit. We've had a huge resurgence. Just spring has kind of sprung in Manitoba. And the last couple of weeks or so, she's just been crazy at toys. They're all over the floor, everywhere. And she and Finnegan have instituted like a little WrestleMania every night at about 10 o'clock.
That could have been your sister.
Well, it's so interesting, Christy. I remember when we first talked, I don't know if it was, Lori, when do we do the foster calls? A week
we
after,
did,
and then
it would have been a couple of weeks, and then
so a couple of weeks.
Yeah, it would have been 2 to 4 weeks that we would have done our group call, and then you and I spoke with Christy and Jay and Zoe together.
Yeah. So I remember, I think it was maybe our first conversation of our one-on-one, or I guess it was like me and Lori and you when we were talking about her. I have in my notes that she didn't play with toys at that time. And one of the things I encourage you guys to do was to try and spark some play in her a little. I think it's so powerful when these dogs can play. So I am so happy to hear that she is now doing that and thrashing them around and playing around. Because I always say that a dog can always eat food when they're scared, but they can't play when they're scared. So whenever I see a dog who's playing, especially with toys, because that's very instinctual for a prey drive type of thing, I always encourage people to try to get your dog to play. So I'm so happy to hear that she is doing that.
Yeah, she quite likes toys. I mean, she takes her cue from her brother as to how to play with them. So she does rip and tear at them a bit, but we don't care. We'll buy her as many toys as she needs or wants or doesn't need. Because she's so excited. Like when you bring home a new toy, it's actually a problem more for me because I will buy her a new toy every time I go out, because the look on her face when you bring her a new toy and she just lights up. She's like, oh, that's for me.
Oh, gosh. I love that.
That's a video to capture, Christy.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Casey with her new toy.
Yeah.
Christy, do you have any questions for us?
Oh.
Now's your chance to ask for any training techniques, ask us anything personal.
Clearly she's perfect, John.
I have a
anything
question
that might help the listeners.
I have a question for you, Christy. What is a toque? You said you have your toque on. Is that another Canadian thing that I have never heard of? I have no idea. What is it?
You did, Lori.
I gave them toques. It's a hat.
Sorry, I'm
call
them beanies.
A beanie.
A beanie.
Yeah.
Sorry. I thought you're like, I have my toque on. And I'm like, what?
I'm answering for Christy. Sorry.
Yes, I also have a Beagle Alliance toque.
Okay.
I call it a beanie.
Yes. They're beanies.
Yes. Okay.
Toque is the French word. It's the French word.
How is it spelled? I wrote it down and I wrote to ask you, and I wrote it down 2 different ways.
Oh,
Q-U-E.
T-U-E. T-O-Q-U-E.
Okay.
Toque.
All right. You learn something new every day.
Yeah. There you go. That's pretty much the extent of my French abilities. I mean, there's a few others, but other than that, it's
I'm going to
not.
totally date myself and say that I learned what a toque was from the old Bob and Doug McKenzie shows.
Oh, yes. I remember you saying that, John. That is so very Canadian. Yeah. It's very American of you to say that about Canada, really.
Yeah. that was my first exposure to the Great White North.
Yeah, exactly. That's so good. So good.
So, Christy, going back to you and any possible questions. Sorry, we hijacked the dialogue there.
Yeah.
No worries. Just always wondering, like because Ridgeland is so much in the news these days, and do you think there's going to be changes in legislation? Do you think that things are, like, we always get really hopeful that things are going to change? Where do you see things going in the United States? And are you a little bit worried about the influx of dogs? Is the public prepared to support dogs that, I mean, they can be really challenging. They have a lot of issues. And I would just personally hate to see like this huge influx of dogs, and then 2 years down the road, do we see that these dogs are being surrendered, or like what kind of supports are you prepared to offer for this? Like where is your stance on this? There were a lot of questions in there. I'm very sorry.
There may have been a lot of questions, but the common theme is very, very valid, and I'll touch on it as much as I can, given the work that I do in this industry. And before I go too in depth on it, I love the fact that when I first started in this industry, that it was very, very quiet and alone. And I've met some incredible people in the community like Lori and Chelsey that respect the methods that Kindness Ranch has and how we quietly advocate, but more as a consulting role. So as a consultant, I can say a lot of people tell me that I don't do enough or I don't act fast enough. They don't perceive the sense of urgency that they feel when they think about the animals that are currently in research. And when we worked with all of the dogs that came out of the Envigo breeding facility, and especially right now with the dogs that are currently being released as of the recording of this episode from the Ridgeland facility in Wisconsin, there's a lot of very, very well-intended people that are going to be taking in these dogs that don't know what they're in for, which when you get the fear of missing out, when you hear all of the good publicity on these dogs coming out of breeding facilities or out of research facilities, and you want one so bad and you just feel like love is going to make all of the difference. And then you get the dog and you realize that you have a 6-year-old dog that's under-socialized, has never had to hold it before they go outside to go potty, and you have this 6-year-old puppy that is really, really difficult to break of all of those habits. They don't have the generational knowledge handed down from stable dogs that teach them to be scared of cars, that the TV is okay, the smell of a coffee maker in the morning is a good thing. There's all of these little things that people don't know. And that's where people like Lori and Chelsey are so invaluable to, if you want to call it, this movement of getting all of these animals out, because of their network, their experience, and everything like that. The laws are changing, but laws change slow for a reason, because the things that change slowly are much more permanent to change. They bought all of the dogs that are being released out of Ridgeland Farms, and if Ridgeland Farms didn't have an agreement that they were going to surrender their breeding license, they would have just kept breeding. They may have sold 1,500 dogs, but they could have had the option to just continue to breed. That didn't change the underlying concern of the public. So there's room for both fronts on this movement. I prefer the non-adversarial one because I'm old and I don't stand up as quick as I used to.
That's such a good answer, John. And may I, Christy, speak to that as well from the Canadian standpoint? Of course, needless to say, we work with Kindness Ranch, and the reason we do is not just because they're fabulous, but obviously we share the same belief system. Needless to say, you meet the people that you are like-minded with and you work with. And we always say that there's so many different roles, and it's important in the animal welfare world to respect everyone's roles and realize that there are different roles and there needs to be different roles. Right now in Canada, we have far less legislation than even the United States does, although Premier Doug Ford is attempting to make amendments to the bill so that we can stop testing on pets in research. And we are working with Canadian welfare organizations, and we have acted in the same way that John has, as a consultant with the government, to talk about adoption and what that looks like when and if. We're hoping it's a when that this bill passes and amendments are made, naturally. And then after that, so that's positive in Canada. And then after that, of course, we want to hit up every province because there needs to be legislation across the entire country. But I agree, and you can rest assured that the three of us have had this conversation many times. And I think it's fair to say that we are all prepared to help whoever comes to us needing help and advice and experience, because just as John said, there is so many people and they are so well-intentioned and they want to love a dog. And love, I'm going to say it, love is not enough. It's a start, and we love them, and that's what starts it, of course. But there's some skills that are needed and some patience that needed and some things that people are going to run into. And we would all, I think it's safe to say that we would all be more than thrilled to help those people through it, because in fact, that's helping the dogs adjust.
I completely agree with all of those things. And Christy, you touched on something that is a huge fear of mine and has been a huge fear of mine since I first started working with Research Beagles, which is if we do all this work, and there are people working really, really, really hard to get these dogs out of these facilities. If we do all this work and we as the general public are not prepared for these dogs, then it's all, is it all wasted? Because we don't want them to be surrendered. We don't want them to be euthanized because they bit someone, right? And I think it is our duty as human beings who benefit from animal testing, it's our duty to then prepare ourselves for the dogs when they get out. And that's something that I've thought of since the beginning, and why I've devoted the past 2.5 years of my life to creating as many resources and helping as many people with these dogs as possible, because they are different. And even with Casey, that she is a well-balanced dog, but she still had startle reflexes. She still was scared of the TV turning on. She was afraid of the water fountain at your house. She was afraid of the refrigerator door noises. Mm-hmm. She was afraid of all those things. And, these dogs, that's just a small scale of things that they deal with. And with John and Lori and myself, we want to help as much as we can, and we will help anyone as much as we can, because that is what we should be doing for these dogs.
I just want to say this thing, and this is what I'm really proud. I am so grateful and proud to work with Kindness and with Chelsey, with John, their teams, and also grateful for the fosters and adopters who really utilize our resources and take it in and want to do the very best. I think what John said is really important about the long-term changes and the approach that he's taken and quite successfully and still going. There's so much more to do. If the system allows for this, the system is where the change needs to happen. And what I love about all of us is that this is a holistic approach, because there are a lot of band-aids to so many things that go on in animal welfare. And the system is going to the root. And when you hit the root of the issue, you make long-term change. And that's the role, I think, John, without speaking for you, because you already said it so beautifully, I think that's simply the role that our organizations have decided to take. And other organizations have taken other roles. And we, of course, wish them all the best and hope, and they're making their change in their way, I guess, is what I'm saying. But the system allows it, and the system is where we would like to change it.
I hope that answers your question, Christy. You put us all up on our little soapbox there.
You really touched on something. We're like, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it.
Let's jump on those soapboxes and just go.
Yeah.
Christy, before we wrap it up, do you want to give your class a shout out?
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, to all my classes and all my kids at Collège Lorette Collegiate, absolutely. Keep asking questions and keep asking about Casey, because she'll
What do you think Casey wants people to know? If she could tell the world something about herself or her journey, what would she want everyone to know about her?
I think she would tell people that families and treats are absolutely the best.
They really are. I agree.
And you can get treats for so much.
Thank you so much, Christy. I know I've asked so many things of you guys, and you truly are ambassadors, and so is Casey, and I so appreciate it. Thank you, and thank you for sharing all of your experiences with everyone on the street and in the school and wherever you are, at the grocery store.
Absolutely. And Casey is proof to whoever's listening that you don't have to have a former research dog to tune in and take part in our life lessons, our discussions, and any training tips and techniques that you may be inquisitive about. You can follow us on all of our socials. Christy, do you have Instagram for Casey or anything that you want to give a shout out for?
You know what? I don't have for Casey, but I have for my former dog. Dory is still the Instagram on there. So Dory Cooke is where you can find more pictures of Casey.
Perfect.
Very cool. Very cool.
Lori, Chelsey, you want to throw out your socials real quick?
Yes, you can follow along the work that my team does with former research beagles on Instagram at keeper.and.kin. Yeah, that's it.
And thebeaglealliance.org, and on social media, the Beagle Alliance or Beagle Alliance on all social media. And I think I'd like to echo what John said is that you certainly don't have to have a former research beagle or intending to foster or adopt. I think it really is just a testament to how our dogs change us and how much love we place for our dogs and how important they are in the lives of all of us. So again, thank you, Christy, so much. Hug that doggy for me. And I don't want to leave Finnegan out. So you give that guy a kiss too. And we'll talk soon.
Thanks for listening to Dogs Beyond the Lab. For more, including comments, feedback, and ways to get in touch with our hosts, go to beyondthelab.dog.
Produced and distributed by the Sound Off Media Company.